Today we're 46,000, maybe 47,000 people in the network. We've got 400 plus companies that are members of us. We're working with 32 universities and colleges, we're working with federal government, we're working with provincial governments. We're doing, some significant thought leadership in the country on things like AI and our state of cybersecurity. We run Canadian Cybersecurity Jobs.com. It's the only dedicated cybersecurity job portal. We're running all these different programs, and we're about to launch a whole bunch of new ones. Now, how did that happen, right? I think that's really what it comes down to. So on this screen, what I did, because I decided that, hey, if I'm giving a session like this, let's reuse it. So I built an app. Why not, right? Might as well build an app, put your knowledge in it, and then we can add to it. And there's a lot of people smarter than me that can keep adding to it and make it a community resource, and you can go and use it. Now, the app that you're going to see today is not an app that keeps any information on you. There's no login. It's just you use the app, you print out or save whatever you need to do, and you can come back and reload it and then print it out. So there's no privacy information. There's nothing in there. Okay. So, and just pull it in there. So really what you'll see a little bit, but we'll go into this, but relationships determine who gets invited, right? I mean, you can apply to thousands of jobs. You can write to hundreds and hundreds of potential customers, and you're going to get no activity, right? And the reason is they have to trust you. You have to build a relationship with them. And yes, skills are important. Don't get me wrong. Skills are very important. But on top of that, if you don't have a relationship or you don't develop relationships or people don't feel that they can trust you, they're not going to do business with you, okay? And that's very, and I know some people come from outside other countries and it doesn't work that way, but that's how it works here in Canada. You need to develop relationships, and it takes time. And you're not going to get everything built overnight. And what I'm saying is building your network is something you're going to do for the rest of your life. Okay? It's not just do it to get a job, because you're going to lose that job. Okay? And you're going to have to rely on your network again. And if you haven't maintained your network or you haven't built it again, it's not going to be there when you need it. Okay? So it's really, really important that you keep building it, keep nurturing it. And we'll talk more about that. So there's a couple of things. One is you need to define your goal. You got to be really clear about what your goal is. And it could be a macro goal or it could be a micro goal, but that's important is you have to have. Okay, so we're going to, and it could be start a business and this is the area I'm starting my business in. Or I need a job and the job is going to be as a SOC analyst. Let's just say that's what it is. You got to be specific. If you're not specific, it's going to be very difficult to build your network around that. Now, of course, if you look at what I've been able to do with CCN, we've built it in maybe 100 different areas by this time. And we built it with CISOs, we built it in healthcare, we built it in, in OT, we're building it in national defense, we're doing a GRC. So we've been able to do that over time, but we didn't try to attempt that from day one, right? Because it's just too much, it's too overwhelming. And you don't get a focus and you don't build something that creates momentum, okay? So define your goal. Then I'm telling you, you should map your network in LinkedIn. Use LinkedIn. Right now, it is the most powerful networking tool there is. You may not like it. It's starting to get a little, bit too much like Facebook. And the algorithms are weird. Okay, yeah, they are. They're not like they used to be. But LinkedIn is still the best place to generate leads. It is amazing to generate leads. And I'm going to share a few tips with you today to see how you can use that to your advantage. So please, obviously, if it doesn't fit your market, don't use LinkedIn. You can use something else. Maybe there's a better platform that you can use. But for 95% of you, it's going to be LinkedIn. Okay, that's where the business professionals are. And then you got to take action. And we're going to create a 90-day plan. And what I'm telling you tonight is, use what you think is beneficial to you. I think you should go all through it. But some of these things are not going to work for everybody, okay? Because they're not your style, or maybe you just won't do it or you won't repeat it. And that's okay. Like I go in and pull the best of different processes all the time that fit my mentality. And I think that's important for everybody here. But start with something. So, like I said, you can create a session on here. You can save it, download it to PDF. You'll even have an AI assessment, okay? but then you can reload it so that no personal information goes on there. There's no personal information. You're not putting your name in here. You're not putting emails. You're not putting anything. Okay. So let's get started. And it has a countdown. So the first thing I tell people is you got to build your networking engine. Don't build a network without building something you're putting in it. You got to figure out how you're going to manage your network. You know, like LinkedIn is just a whole bunch of names, basically. Yeah, it tells you where they are, but it doesn't give you any additional direction. It doesn't create a log of who you've communicated with. It's not easy to find. You get messages on LinkedIn, you're completely lost after a couple of weeks because there's hundreds of them and you don't know which one is recent and which one is old. And, you know, people get lost, especially people like, you know, I have 30,000, I think, on LinkedIn, so I'm maxed out on it. So there's no way you can keep track of LinkedIn after a while. So build your networking engine. So let's talk about the networking flywheel, and I call it the flywheel. And you can see there's pictures in here. There's places you can go and see what they actually are. There's actually videos embedded in here. But basically what you're trying to do is attract the people that you want to interact with. That could be clients, that can be your network. You want to engage with them, okay? And we'll talk more about how you engage. And then you're going to delight them, okay? So you're not just going to go like, hey, give me a job. I get, you know, like I probably get about 20 requests a day saying, I need a job. What am I going to do with that? I don't know you. I don't know your skill set. You haven't told me anything about yourself. Why should I care? Right? I want to care about you. Seriously, like that's really what it comes down to. If I'm going to hire you, or if I'm going to hire you as a contractor working for me, I want to care about the person I'm hiring. I want to know something about you that you're going to tell me that's going to make me go, huh, that's really interesting. This person went out of the way to tell me something about themselves or about what they can do that makes me feel like I want to work with them. Okay, so that's for jobs, and that's for business. Okay, very, very, very important. Right? So attract, engage, delight, repeat. So now you're basically, you know, choose your core networking platform. So you can actually follow along here if you want. You can tick these boxes off. It's going to give you a full PDF at the end. It's going to give you an AI assessment, and you can save it in the future and do that. So, you know, obviously I would say, hey, yeah, let's save LinkedIn. You know, I have a personal website, so I'm going to use my personal website. You know, you might be using GitHub, right? Great place to keep some of your projects. There could be others. You know, I'll definitely say, hey, let's get Surf on there, and I'll share more about Surf in a bit, because Surf is your top tool. Okay, I'm going to tell you that once you start using Surf, your life is going to change. Okay, as long as you do the other things we're talking about to help you, and that's growing your business or growing your career or just influencing. Now, don't tell your friends because they might find the jobs ahead of you. No, I'm just kidding. All right, industry forums, podcasts, you kind of understand. I'm kind of giving you some tops here. What industry or ecosystem do you want to network in? So this is really, really important. Most people say, I just want a job. Well, good luck. I want to start a business. Well, what business? You know, what are you going to do? Are you going to be selling widgets, ice cream? You know, what are you selling? And I think it's really, really important that you define it. And if it's a SOC job, define it. You can have 2 or 3. Don't go too broad. If you go too broad, it just makes it way too difficult. Okay? Be passionate. If you're passionate about one specific area in your career or in your business, go for it. And what I mean for that is like, okay, if it's SOC and you know where you want to be in that role and you've got the background and everything, focus on SOC and find the companies, right? And we'll talk about that. Find the companies, find the individuals, find the network, build your network day after day after day after day. Get in touch with the associations. That's how you do it. You have to be very goal oriented. I'll give you an example. One of the things I used to do is when I was in my crazy stage, I used to run a lot of marathons and triathlons. I used to be like really focused. And I would have an extremely engaged like plan. Right? My whole week was set out, you know, what I would eat, what I would sleep, what I would train, all those things. Because, you know, I was very competitive back then. And when you do that, you're also telling people, I'm going to do this, and here's the goal I'm going after. And if you tell your friends and your family about what you're trying to achieve, you've committed to it. And once you commit to something, you have moral obligation of some sort to actually go and do it, right? It's something that if you can commit to and tell some friends, you don't have to tell the world, right? Some people go out and say, I'm doing this. Okay, great. But you can tell your couple of friends, you can tell a couple of people in your family that this is your goal. And by doing that, you're actually reinforcing everything in your being and everything you're doing in daily practice to achieve those things. And I think that's really, really important. Okay. And it might not be something you're used to doing. And you can just write it on a piece of paper. You can put it on your fridge. You can do whatever you want. But just do something that changes your mindset from saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this," but then you're not, really fully committed. It's like waking up in the morning and going for a run or going for that walk or, not eating that pizza tonight. So I didn't eat the pizza. So you're really focusing on achieving certain things. And then once you've done that, so write these things down. Let's say that, and then define your attract channels. Okay, so where am I going to find these things, right? A professional, your network, your LinkedIn portfolio, your posts, your insights. How are you going to share what you do? You're good at. I mean, it could be attending an event like this. You could just be participating in an event like this. You don't have to push the limits and go like, I'm going to go out and speak like François. You can go say, I'm going to be at B-Sides. I'm going to attend, another event somewhere. I'm going to make myself uncomfortable by going to speak to that person across the room. It's whatever is within your ability to do and your commitment level at that moment in time. Okay, not everybody's ready to, to do all these things. And I'll guarantee you, when I first started my career, I would go to a conference and I would be in that corner. I'm an introvert. Most people say I'm not an introvert. I'm a business extrovert, but I'm an introvert. Okay, so it takes a lot for me to be able to go out and speak to someone I've never met before. And it used to be really, really hard. And then I taught myself some tricks to do that. So all of you have to do the same thing. You have to create your comfort zone. So where will people discover your work, you and your work? Is it LinkedIn? Where is it? So where's your audience, right? So if your audience are SOC, they're going to be on LinkedIn. They're also going to be in some different types of forums. They're going to be on different types of LinkedIn forums. They may be on, search them out. They might be on Discord. They might be on different types of channels. You have to identify all those channels and write them down. And I think that's super, super important. And then you've got to create, how am I going to display my work and my abilities in this network? You probably, some of you that know me will probably go, oh, well, Canadian Cybersecurity Network is saying things all the time, right? And it's true, because we're getting our message out there about the things that we can actually do for the community, or we're actually doing on a report, or we're looking for thought leaders, or we're, speaking somewhere, or whatever else. You're getting your brand out there. You're talking about who you are. You're talking about the things you can do. You can do it in a muted way, but that's super, super critical. Okay. Then you're going to find your engagement tools, right? So how are you going to use LinkedIn messaging and email? Are you going to use email? How are you going to do your emails? Are you going to make sure that, you've got a professional, right? They need to be clear. Can you use a CRM system? If you're a business, you're going to be using a CRM system, client relationship management. Could be HubSpot, could be Salesforce. Now, if you're just doing it from a career perspective, maybe you're using a Google Sheet, maybe you're using Excel. It doesn't matter. You need to have a system to be able to manage your communications, your job searches, and everything else, or you're going to lose track. Contract tracking tools, SURF. So I'm going to talk a bit more about SURF in a while. I'll go through the actual example of how we would actually use it. And maybe I should do that now because I think it's a great example. Let's see if it takes us there. Okay, so this is SURF where you can download it. Okay. And SURF is free unless you upgrade. Okay, and sometimes you'll find it, it's called LeadJet sometimes as well, SURF LeadJet. And I'm going to show you how it works in 2 seconds. Okay, this little tool will enable you to grow your contacts in your network like this. Okay, so you can find that in the app, but I'm going to go to LinkedIn right now. Do I have LinkedIn? Let's just put one in there. Hopefully the network is good. All right. So let's just go to the main feed. And let's just find someone here. So Ashif, I know Ashif. We're connected, of course. I'm probably connected to most people on this. But if you go to Ashif, you'll see that here he is at Mobia. He works in OT, right? I don't know if I have him. So you see see something new that popped on my screen? It's called Surf. So it's a little tool. Once you put Surf onto your system, it'll actually integrate with LinkedIn. Okay. And what it does is you have the ability to find anybody's email. Okay. And it'll also find phone numbers. Now, I want to say something first. Do not misuse this tool. Okay. I don't go around spamming people. Okay. You are not to go spamming people. So you have to look at everything we're going to talk about tonight about how you actually go out and talk to people and how you communicate people. Don't go tell them I want a job. Or you're going to be blacklisted, right? You need to really have an appropriate approach if you're reaching out for business or anything else. But what it does is when you start having this information, you can see that I can put this information directly into my HubSpot. You can put it directly into Google Docs. Okay, so you can align this with a Google Docs document and you don't have to spend any money. Okay, so you can link it. Now, if you're buying the free version of this, not expensive, but buy the free version. If you just get the free version of it, I think you're limited to 100 free reach outs a month. It's not, it's a good, but it's not a lot. Now, if you spend, I think it's $25 a month, and if you're in job search or building a business, like $25 a month is the best thing you can ever do. You're going to be able to do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And I got credits I'm not even using. So I've got so many credits, I can't even use them anymore because I don't have time. So I'm too busy doing many things. But what it does is it allows you to bring all this information in. And Surf in itself is a huge management tool. So you have the ability to do a lot of other things, like find other people that are like that person using this tool. So you're going to be able to click on, once you learn how to use it, it's not difficult. You're going to have the ability to actually bring your network to another level. Okay. So it allows you to scale in a way that you've never been able to scale before. And it actually even has built-in templates. So when you can reach out to someone, you can actually build your templates. You can create a message that you can send it on LinkedIn so that it's professional. Okay, so you're rebuilding your templates and you're sending them out for job search or building your business. So it's a phenomenal tool. And there are other tools like this, but I did my research and this is the tool that I love. And other tools just have not worked for me as well. And maybe some people in this room are using other tools. Anybody using a tool similar to this that's as good or better? Yeah. What's it called? SalesQL. Okay. And do you enjoy that tool? Okay. So see, there are other tools, and it all depends how you're using it and how you integrate it. So mine integrates with a lot of other programs that I have. So I integrate it into my CRM. I integrate it into a lot of my apps. I integrate it into a lot of different things that I'm using. So however you're going to use your tools is really going to determine, what's the best tool out there. But this tool is easy to use. It's flexible. And it's not expensive. So for me, it works really well, but you can look into other tools as well. And it allows you to do, like I said, a ton of things. And you can even identify the type of contacts, right? So I've set up my categories here. So you can set up your categories the way you want. It could be for different types of jobs. It could be for a SOC, it could be for an OT, or maybe it's a customer that's related to, I don't know, maybe they're interested in one product of yours and you're looking and you've got 5 products. So you can identify your product streams and then tie your customers and your contacts into your product streams. Okay. Any questions? I'm gonna take the pause because there's lots of stuff I've been kind of throwing at you. Yeah. SURFE. And you sometimes find it on the internet, Surf Lead Jet. It used to be called Lead Jet. So Surf Lead Jet is this one. Any other questions? Yeah. No, of course.
So Surf, so you're looking at somebody's LinkedIn, Surf is extracting the email and phone number from info that's already in LinkedIn? Or
No.
going off and doing a search?
No, you'll see I'll run a separate search here. just so everybody sees what it does.
Screen.
Oh,
So I'm not seeing it here.
oh, you're not seeing surf, you mean?
I'm not seeing that screen.
Oh, okay. It's a little. What it is. Okay, so how do I have to reshare?
You can go directly onto the tab that you have the stream on your app to share it.
Probably gonna not know what you're doing.
You can share your screen if you prefer, like the whole screen. This one.
Oh, okay.
Right. And
Just-
then share, and my screen will bring it back. Understand and proceed.
There we
It
go.
can be the entire screen if you
Okay.
prefer. So whenever you switch back
Okay.
and forth,
Yeah,
it's
probably
gonna be
best.
showing up.
Yeah, it's probably best.
Yeah, and then share. There we
Perfect.
go. I'll bring it back.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the LinkedIn.
Yeah, you can go back. So
Here-
everything you have on your screen is being streamed.
Perfect. All right. So we're gonna go to an example here. Just someone I'm not connected to, which might be time here. As you can tell, I'm mostly connected.
Donald Trump.
Yeah. Whoops. Whoa. Okay. A lot of people here. There we go. So Will Butler. I don't know who Will Butler is. Here we go. He's GTM infrastructure architect in Boston. So what I'm going to do is, here we are in Surf, and I'll show you how it works. Is you basically, add as a contact, and you'll see that it'll actually, it's asking me what title. I'll just say as a founder, because it has multiple titles in LinkedIn. So now it's going to start doing its magic. Okay, so what it does is it searches all of these different applications that are email databases across the world, and it checks about 15 or 20 of them, and it's looking for the information, and then it pulls it in, right? So there it did. It found it, right? It found it. It's giving us a little symbol. Maybe there's a problem with that email. Now it's rare. It's about 95% accurate. There's about a 5% error rate that I've noticed in Surf. And usually it's because, they've done something really, really different with their email architecture. And this is common, right? So like in the old days, right? When I used to search for emails, you would search using Google, or you use a Boolean search. And you would be able to say, hey, I want to find, Jared Grant at C3SA. And it would give me it would tell me what most people at that company, their email, structure was. So it would say first name dot, last name at, C3SA. And that's how we would find people and reach out to them, just like this tool, but it would take a lot longer. So sometimes what companies do, and there's some really smart companies out there, and I always say, when I used to work in HR, I'd say, IT, you should really, really work on this and change the whole email structure in your company so that it's not common. So that you would do something like, Jim.B at, C3SA at, I don't know, 3.4 or something weird, so that nobody could figure it out. And you give up. You just give up, right? So there's some companies that have done a really good job at this. If you try and find like emails using this for Microsoft, like you're not going to find it, okay? Because Microsoft has done something to their systems where they scramble these emails, and that's really, really smart actually, because it just takes most of the noise out of the way. Now, most companies don't do that. They structure their emails either F dot last name dot, whatever. Years and years ago, when I did my first networking company, we were able to get pretty much everybody's email like that because everybody had their directories open, right? So everybody had their directories open. You can go in, as an example, the government of Canada had an open directory. We could just basically go download all emails. I mean, it was that easy, right? So I've always said that you need to create a structure that's really hard for people to just get access to it. So did that answer your question? Sorry, did that answer your question? Any other questions about the use of the tool? Yeah. Sorry, I'm just gonna come down here so I can.
A little bit different. You mentioned that you're quite introvert.
Yeah.
But my question is, what helps you drives confidence? Is it your personal goal that drives your professional goals? Because I believe it can bring customers to you and helping you grow up. So that was
It's interesting, right? I think I just matured. I mean, I don't have a specific answer to that. I think when I was younger, um, I was a slow developer. You know, I just know, like, I'm a late bloomer in a lot of ways, in a sense of how I became a business person and other things. I think when I first started, I had kind of like blinders on. Like, everybody's different. Everybody matures at in a different way in their life, and I think for me, I was kind of like, you know, very much get my work done kind of person. And then when I realized at some point that if my career was to go anywhere, I had to really, you know, just blow it up, because everybody was taking credit for the work I was doing, as an example, right? And I think that you realize at some point you have to be out there, you have to try new things, you have to be, and you just take a leap of faith. And I think those first few leaps of faith give you the confidence, and then you just go crazy, right? So like when I first started at Nortel, as an example, I remember I was, you know, in a fairly junior role, I would say, wasn't like super senior. And I remember someone saying, like, oh, and I just called up the president of one of our units in Dallas, Texas, because he was on my customer list. And they go like, why are you calling like William? Like, you can't call William. I'm going like, why not? He's one of my customers. I want to find out what he needs. So I had developed a confidence to just call the president. And, I think the next week I was in Dallas meeting with him, because I had taken the initiative to just do that. And that builds confidence, I think. But I think sometimes you're going to fall flat on your face. I mean, that's just the reality, right? Sometimes we fail, but you're also going to be able to be very successful, and that's going to give you the confidence to take those risks. So I think I always tell people to take chances, because if you don't take chances, the opportunities are just going to go by, and someone else is going to take them. And move fairly fast as well, because I mean, especially in our age now with AI and everything else that's taking place, things are moving super fast. If you don't move, like, I think that's the biggest problem right now. If you look at, like if I was working, if I was a leader in the government, I'd be really worried, because I'd be going like, how can I make this move faster? Because it's a huge machine, and you've got, AI coming in, and you've got all these decisions you have to make to be able to adapt. And how do you do that? I mean, I would be like really, really scared. I really would be. In my role, I get to make decisions. I get to move very fast. I get, to fail or succeed. And sometimes you fail. But once you get the confidence, you're going to succeed most of the time. It's just an odds game. It's odds. It's basically saying, most of the time you're going to be right, and you just have to go with your feeling. Does that help?
because it's not me.
Yeah, it's just a different. It was never always like this, right? So I think everybody has the opportunity to be who they want to be, and I didn't say I want to be like this. It just became who I am, and I think you just grow with it. So building your network is that. It's about creating those engagements with people and providing value to them. So that's really where we're going with a lot more of this. So I'll get back on track. Make sure I have it here. So, okay, so showed you surf, use it, okay? Seriously, or something similar. How are you gonna track your conversations and your follow-up? If you're using surf, you can track a lot of those conversations you start having back into the Google Doc, or an Excel spreadsheet, or CRM for business. Make sure, this is really critical. We talked about it at the beginning, and I didn't go into a lot of detail, but make sure you've got a way to capture information. What is gonna be your system? Okay? To identify, attract, and engage, and then repeat. Okay? Because you need to have a system in place. You need to figure out what your moving pieces are, and make sure they're gonna be flexible in this new age of AI, because everything is changing. If you're stuck with a platform that can't shift, it's really, really tough. And if you're building a business, it's even more important. Don't get stuck on the legacy platform. Don't get stuck in anything. You're going to be stuck for a year. Everything is month to month. Everything changes so fast now that you need a core platform, but then everything else has to move very quickly within it. So make sure that whatever you're putting in place is going to be able to, change to the new and adapt to new things, because things are changing fast. So delight. So let's talk a little bit more about, your initial conversations with people. If it's in this room tonight or anywhere, just be yourself and create value. That's it. I mean, it's about getting people to trust you, getting people to be comfortable around you, and you do that by being real. Like, you got to share who you are. Now, we don't share everything about yourself. There are some people that go way too far. Just share a little bit about, what makes you who you are, and why you're excited about cybersecurity or the business you're about to start. And I think that's really the key. And then from there, you're going to create value. What is it you're going to give back, right? What are you going to give back to the community? What are you going to give to this employer? What are you going to create with this business that you're trying to work with? They have to see the value in what you're providing. You're sending out a resume, you got to create value. You got to create a value proposition. Okay? Don't just say, I want that job. Tell them why you want that job and tell them a bit about yourself. Okay? So things from collaborating on projects, publishing resources. Like, one of the things that we do at CCN is we try to make everybody's work out there. We try to bring people's voices to the table. I, go out and say, I see somebody interesting out in, I don't know, Calgary, and I'll say, wow, you're doing pen testing out there. It looks really interesting. Why don't we just jump on a call and see if it's something we can do an article on? It's how you reach out to involve more people. How do you involve them in your network and what you're trying to do and create? And then people will start believing in what you're doing and what you're trying to do. And it could be very simple. It could just be, I love cybersecurity, and people start reacting to that. It could be, Jared, when he's involved in B-sides and how he's getting involved in B-sides. It could be, you're starting a business and people start believing in your product, and they start referring more people to your business. So you have to have something that's core. And how will you continue providing value to the people you meet, right? So you could be sharing a relevant article with them. You could say, you meet someone today and you go, I really found this article that I think would resonate with you. People appreciate that. Like, not enough people do those simple things of saying, I met you and I'm going to follow up and share something with you. It's like we're so glued to technology now, we forget that we're human beings and we have needs, and our needs are basically to feel respected and heard. You hear what I said? I talked about, I don't know, OT technology, and you said, oh, I found this great article with OT technology, I sent it to you. I mean, that would be something that if someone did that to me, I'd go, oh, wow, I've voted for that person, right? Because they did something that was different from everybody else. It's the same thing with a customer. A customer will actually care about you a lot more if you do a follow-up to something you said you were going to do. So make sure you do those kinds of little things that are really important. So define your goal. You must serve a specific outcome. What are you working towards? What type of network are you building? We talked about this. So we did a lot of this already. Find a job, expand your business clients. Go through this process. You'll have the opportunity to do it. Your 90-day goal. What is your 90-day goal? Is it some people will say maybe find a job, but let's not jump to that right away. Let's say, build my network in the SOC industry by 100 people, 100 new people. And that's going to drive me to my goal. And maybe you will find a job in less than 100 days, but your goal is not to find a job, it's to find 100 new connections that will drive you to your goal. Okay? So again, the building blocks: identify strategic people, right? Define the value you can offer, start the conversation, build a relationship, create opportunities to collaborate, and expand through introductions and referrals. So you need to identify who are the people that can help you. So today, all of you in this room already have a network. Okay? And you go, well, really? Maybe. There are some people that can help you already. And so the first thing you're going to do is build that network. You're going to create core of that network and say, okay, these are the people that I know really well. These are the people that they know. And here's the outside circle. And then you can start creating your network. And then you continue building that work from there. Now, make sure it's specific to your goal. Okay, so it's not everybody that, your mom might not be able to help you find a cybersecurity job, right? But maybe she can. But the reality is you need to be very specific with your goal and tie the people around you around that goal and then build out from there. So these processes are all there. If there's a sub-industry, set your goals here. LinkedIn as your networking hub, we talked about that. What's your focus? Is it city, regional, or global? And you can go from there. And then basically, doing a reality check. Understand your existing network before you build on it. That's what we just talked about. Do you have any current mentors? If you don't have any current mentors, always be on the lookout for those individuals. And sometimes they're already there and you don't know it. Okay? These are really, really important. If I look back on my career, I'll say that some of the mentors were probably the most important things I ever had. And they sometimes came in very interesting ways. Some of them were my clients, right? So one individual that helped me tremendously since I started the CCN was Michael Argas, CEO of Cobalt in Vancouver. And he gave me some phenomenal advice, and I just reached out and asked him. And that was it. And every time I have a big problem, I just call him and say, Michael, you got 2 minutes? And after I have a 2-minute call with him, I feel like, wow, this whole weight's been lifted off my back, right? So you need people like that. And sometimes they're not like true mentors where they're mentoring you for long periods of time. True mentors don't have to be that way. Mentors can be someone that just nugget when you need it. And I think people always look for mentors that are going to help them, find that job. Mentor that's going to help them find some breakthrough. No, look at mentors as the people in your life that can give you that little boost when you need it, give you that level up. And I've had probably 5 or 6 of them in my career, and some of them taught me some really tough lessons, meaning that maybe I thought I was pretty good and I wasn't, right? And I think that's really important. You gotta look for the people that are not just going to give you the, hey, you're great. Look for the people who are actually going to tell you that, what, you're not that great, and give you a little kick and say, you got to work on these things. So I think that's absolutely critical that you identify those types of individuals. Your peers are awesome because you can actually talk to them about anything. And I think that's really, really important. You're not feeling like you're spilling the beans. You're not feeling like you're going above your boss's head. You're just having a conversation with someone you can feel comfortable with and get some information from to help grow your career. Industry connectors, look for them. Jarrett's one, right? Everybody call Jarrett. JF. People that are actually involved in the community and providing value. Reach out to them. That's what they're trying to do. Now they can't do everything, right? Like I have to turn down people all the time because sometimes I got 30 people in a day that'll reach out to me and say, "Can you help me do this? Can you help me do that?" And I go, "Okay, be there today, but I don't know if I can be there and there tomorrow, right? Because it's just too much." So you have to make decisions, and not everybody's going to be happy with that, but they need to understand. So I think that's really important. Look for connectors. Look for people that are going to help you. And when you reach out to these, and one of the things that we didn't talk about yet, but we'll talk about it in a second, is you're going to be reaching out to people that can help you. But when you're reaching out to find a job, as an example, let's just say jobs right now, and you're reaching out to a recruiter, the majority of them are not going to get back to you, talk to you, right? Not going to give you any feedback. But you're going to have about maybe 5% of them that will. I used to reach back out or reach out to me if they did it the right way. They said, this is what I'm looking for, and this is my story, and this is what I care about. I'd reach out to them and say, hey, yeah, let's have a conversation. We can talk about things, or I can give you some feedback. But 95% are going to say no. Look for that 5%. And the same thing with hiring managers. So for those job seekers, okay, here's one tip. Big tip for me is go to the recruiter, apply to those jobs on all those job boards, and then bypass them as well. Go to the hiring manager, okay? And some of the hiring managers aren't going to like it, but this is how you do it. use a tool like Surf, you identify through LinkedIn who those hiring managers are, and you reach out to them. Because those hiring managers are going to care if you do it the right way. They're actually going to look at you and say, oh, this person found a way to reach out to me. I know who I am. Pretty smart. Secondly, they did some research on my company, and they're reaching out to me in a way that's actually professional, without being pushy, right? And 10 to 15% are likely, you know, the first thing you're going to do? You're going to send your resume to HR. And they're going to go like, HR, I think they'll take a deeper look into this person, right? So you're going to get an accelerated right job opportunity, okay? Another 5% are actually going to pick up the phone or reach out to you and say, hey, I want to talk to you. Or maybe they'll give you some advice. And then 80% of them are just gonna, not even blink an eyelid, right? But you're playing an odds game here. You're playing the odds. It's the same thing in business. You're reaching out to clients. When I'm reaching out to clients, I'm telling them what, you know, I might just say something, hey, like, let's just get on a call, let's just talk about, you know, your business. And that's kind of my calling card, talk about their business. You know, they usually know who I am, usually, not always. But let's talk about their business. And then usually the conversation will fall in, oh, how can you help me? Right? But you don't have to start with that, right? So the key is make sure that you've got clear purpose. And for job seekers, definitely reach out to hiring man. There's a few percentage that will be, oh, you know, go talk to HR. It's okay. You're gonna get those. And you're gonna get some people that say that's not my job or whatever, but don't worry about that. The reality is you're increasing your odds. Any questions on that? Yeah.
Tried to reach out to big stuff for a while. Reaching out and even with the retro, they never just like
Yeah.
around the work.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, it's part of what you have to do well when you're doing this is building your network, because they also look at your network sometimes, right? Part of the thing that I've noticed a lot, especially, and again, I'm not dissing the younger, you know, generation, but a lot of them don't develop their LinkedIn profile. So, you know, most hiring managers, a lot of hiring managers look at people's LinkedIn profiles. They still do. They really do. So you're going to look at your LinkedIn profile because they want to see if you're, you know, you're somewhat connected, you're somewhat, you know, building out your career. You want to see how serious you are, especially in the technology field. And recruiters all use LinkedIn. They all use it. Not saying it's great or whatever. It's just they all use it because it's great for lead generation and you can do some follow-ups. So build out your LinkedIn networks. Like, you know, I still see people that have 150 people. Well, like, come on, guys. Like, you gotta build it out, right? Build out your network. It's not that it's just something you have to do right now. It doesn't mean that in 5 years you're going to be doing it. It means right now that it is important, and you should be leveraging it for your lead generation and for building your profile. So every day, go out and build it. And yes, you're going to get a lot of people that are going to ignore you. And, you know, use this tool to write to some of them directly and then link in with them, because some of them won't link in with you until you do that first connection. Right? They won't know who you are. They're going, who is this person? So yes, you can use LinkedIn, and most of you are limited because you're not on a LinkedIn premium plan. So you're limited to, I don't know how much it is now. Is it 100 a week or 100 call outs? So at some point it's going to tell you can't reach out to more people because you've already tried, you've used your maximum. So that's why you use emails. That's why you post. That's why you try to drive attention to yourself in one way, shape, or, you know, in a positive way, to get people connected to you. And the decision makers, you know, and the communities you're part of. And if you're trying to find communities, I put this link here. I think it was at the last B-Sides. I got asked that question by someone in the audience when I presented. It was, do you have an app that tells us who the Canadian communities are? I said, no, we don't. So we built one, okay? So that you can go in there and click on that Browse CCN Community Hub, and you can see the different communities that are out there: AI, cyber, technology, business, in different cities across Canada. And that's just to help you be part of different communities, because some communities aren't for you, Some communities might have a better feel for you, or maybe they're what they're trying to do is a better fit for you. So that tool is there to get you into a couple of different communities, because you should be involved in, when you're job seeking, as many as you can. It's just another way to increase your odds. And I know it's painful, and job searching is not easy. Building a business is not easy either. It's not for the faint of heart, right? Because your first year is like, it's all, you know, heavy slogging. You're not making a lot of money in that first year unless you've got an amazing product already. So it's a lot of work and a lot of commitment. So don't be afraid of it. And the one advice I would give you, you know, and I'll use an example, and I hope people don't mind if I use his name. I had someone that joined my community. It was the second year, and some of you will know him. You definitely know. And I always use this example. Ishmael Roberto Pinino. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ishmael Roberto Pinino, but he is an amazing guy. And you know, he reached out to our community, I don't know, maybe the first year, and he was very, you know, he was looking for work in cybersecurity. I think he was at the Catalyst at the time. He graduated, but nobody would hire him. And you know, he's, and you know, I would say that probably being very direct, ageism was part of it as well. Like, he's not a super young fellow, and I don't think companies were looking to hire him because of age. And I'll be honest about that. So it made it very difficult. And so I started working with him and helping him as much as I can. And, you know, just giving him tips. And he was the most grateful person I've ever bumped into. All the hard luck this person has had, how difficult it was, how much rejection he had. And he was still the happiest person out there, and always saying thank you, and always being super professional. And that in itself is huge. It is probably the most important thing I will tell you in this session today. Be very purposeful, happy, and happy for the support you get. Always be thankful for any advice or support you get. Even if you don't agree with it. Ishmael was amazing. Like, seriously, he would go out of his way to provide you with access or tips or anything he could do. And, you know, it took a while, but, you know, that was a reference on his reference that got his job. He's been hired at TELUS, and he's, you know, one of their cybersecurity awareness experts. And yeah, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal, right? And he's so happy and so grateful for all the help he's received from everybody, not just me. Everybody in his career that's ever helped him, he's the same way. And I would tell you that just that mindset is the first most important thing you can bring to the table if you're starting a business or looking for work or creating relationships. So that's really, really important. And the other thing I would say is that, you know, never be desperate. Okay, what I mean by that is, if you are talking to, you're in a job interview, and you sound desperate, and you are desperate. You want that job, you need that job, you need the money, you want to start working, you want to move on from, you know, being in school, and if you sound desperate, employers know it. You feel it. There's a tenseness. It's the same thing like when someone's trying to sell you something, and they're a little, you know, just kind of pushy a little bit, and you're kind of feeling like, hey, whoa, you know, you're not going to buy from that person. You're going to buy from someone that has a vision, that's comfortable with who they are and the product they're selling. You might not buy today. You might buy in the future. And that's okay. You know, like, I never thought I'd sell anything. I'm not really someone that likes to sell. But I've gotten comfortable doing it because all I'm doing is talking about what I love. So if you're talking about what you love, well, that's not selling. It's just easy. So do the things that you love, talk about the things that you love, work in the areas that you love, and you're going to be the same way. And you're going to approach business, your clients, job search is the same way. Not saying it's easy. We all have bad days. We all have hard times. But those kinds of approaches are the key. Okay? Any questions on that? Because it sounds kind of soft, but it's really, really important. Anything? No? Yeah?
you've received about 1 million cover letters, right?
Yeah.
How important is personal?
Very important. I don't know if it has to come in a cover letter, but because I mean, I have to open it. If I have to open it, no. I think it's, if it's in the email, I'm happy with that too, right? It's a general introduction. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think personalization is super important because the resume just gets you in the door. Resume gets you an interview. That's all it does. Put the stuff in there that gets you an interview. That's all you want. Don't put anything in there that you think is going to create a problem for you to get an interview. You're just maximizing your chances to get an interview. That's all recruiters use it for, and hiring managers use it for. So the personalization is the kicker, because people want to care about you. They want to actually have something in that cover letter that makes them go, oh, yeah, I think I'm going to dig a little further. I'm not just going to, bypass the resume, because a lot of hiring managers won't even look at the resume. You see a form letter and they go, well, yeah, recruiters, they use tools, right? So you use ChatGPT, they're using Resumex, they're using all their ATSs, and I do blame recruiters, not because now, unfortunately, the volume is huge, but one of the things that we always do, and I still do, that's why I like retain search, is because you actually read everything you get, and you're actually involved with less resumes, and you're more in depth with the candidates and finding that perfect match, right? Recruiters tend to use a lot of these tools to weed everything out. So you're weeding out good candidates. It's just a reality. You're weeding out good candidates that might not have done a perfect resume, might not have done a perfect cover letter, right? They didn't follow a process. And really, this whole thing about finding a job or even finding business is a process. So if you master the process, your odds go up, right? So that's why I'm saying network, create your own advantage on top of that. But the cover letter is, to me, it's basically an opportunity to say three things, really. Because one is, here's what I know about your company, and here's how I can help. Okay, here's what I know about either the work or the company, and here's how I can help you. And two, here's why I want to help you. What makes me different than, Joe and Susan and Daniel and everybody else. I need to stand out. I need to say something about myself. And usually it's not super personal. It's just something that brings it out. And I think everybody has their own special thing. I can't tell you what yours is or what yours is. I think everybody has something in who they are and what they bring to the table that's a little different. Some people don't want to share it, and that's okay. But if you can share a little bit about you, then you're going to have huge success. I do a lot of coaching calls, a lot of mentoring calls, and I had one a couple of weeks ago. And this gentleman said, I've never told anybody this at all. And I won't say what we talked about, but he shared with me something that was preventing him from being successful, or he thought was preventing him from being successful. But I swung it the other way and said, this is what's going to make you successful. But, this individual came from a culture where you don't talk about some of these things when you're reaching out for employment opportunities. And I think it was exactly the opposite. If he would have shared a bit more about, what he actually did, from a work perspective and some of the physical challenges that he had gone through, this is actually, you're going on, this is an amazing candidate. Like, this person's lived something that nobody else has ever done before. And all of a sudden he brings a skill set as well. So you're gonna feel something. Hiring managers are people too. And they're not only looking at technical skills, they actually want to work with people they care about. And they want their team to work with people that they actually care about. You don't want some, I've worked with some of these people that you just can't even stand in the office, right? You're going, oh my God, why did this person get hired? Why are they here? They're making me feel miserable all day. And you're going like, why? Right? And it's a very small number, but it creates a lot of mayhem in an office. And I think that's why a lot of leaders really look at, they talk about culture, but you're really looking at people that just they're kind people. My philosophy in Canadian cybersecurity is I only work with kind people. I will not work with people that aren't kind. I won't do it. Why would I? I turn down clients because I don't want to work with them. Because if they're not fun to work with, they're not kind to work with my staff. Why would I do it? Like it's miserable. Like it's like and I'm not saying that you won't have to work with miserable people. When you're starting your career or where you're at in business, you might have to. But I'm saying that you wouldn't want to, right? So hopefully that helped in a cover letter, but the covering letter is a place where, yeah, I do expect to see something come through. Yeah, please.
Recruiter directly is I know that the word is not the economy is not so good.
Yeah.
Budget is so many of the ministers are not bothering about the negotiation with the staff who's leaving, who's
Yeah.
so the time, do you think still do you still want to reach out hiring directly?
Now, are you talking government managers?
Well, yeah, public sector.
Public sector is a little different, right? So, I mean, public sector, I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing because they're people and people are influenced by who they interact with. So I'm not saying all hiring managers are going to like it. Some hiring managers go, we're not hiring, you know, like go to HR and that we have a process and here's the process and you got to follow this process. And there is a process in the public, you know, in the public sphere. I started my career there. I left. I couldn't work it. But having said that, I still think you can reach out. Now, it's the way you reach out, right? I mean, you have to be so professional in regards to how you do it. And you're not, you know, you're providing value back. And if you're providing value back in the way you communicate with someone, people are they might just say, hey, yeah, no, you have to go to HR, or maybe they'll send it to HR. But I would always, always go to the hiring manager because you know why? It's not just I'm trying to find a job. I'm trying to build my network. This is my whole approach. My whole approach has been I'm always building my network. Right? I'm always building my network because that creates value for not only me, but for the people I'm interacting with. You know, when I came into this room today, of course, I'm going to go around and talk to people because you want to find out what do people want, right? You're trying to find out what are people trying to get out of this session. So you're networking with them, but you're trying to help them. You're trying to figure out what is it they're trying to achieve, and you want to create a link. So even that hiring manager in the government that may not have a job or may not want to talk to me, I'm still going to create a relationship with because maybe it's a year from now. Maybe it's 6 months, or maybe it's 2 years from now. Maybe I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to do business with them. You would be amazed at the relationships I started, and then 2 or 3 years later, you've got an opportunity to work with them. It's like, wow, it's just baffles you sometimes that someone you worked with or reached out to because you were looking for a job, you're now working with as a business. They may not remember, but I remember, right? Because you're always creating relationships. You really do. And I think more and more, and important, this is really, really important, is that in the age we're in right now, where everything is AI driven, where everything is not sure if it's true or not, relationships and trust are more important than anything else. So the communities that you're a part of, like this, like B-Sides, Canadian Cybersecurity Network, all of those things that have real people in them can build trust, can build something that you can feel comfortable with versus this online stuff that you're not even sure if the person is real or not anymore. And I think trust is becoming, I call it the new currency. I call trust the new currency. And it's always been very important, but more so now in this age of deep fakes and everything else that's taking place around AI. I mean, wow. I was talking to someone today, I got to tell this story, but I was talking to an expert, Get Real Security. It's a company out in Florida. And they were telling me about these deep fakes where it was 3 individuals. I can't remember where they were from. They were applying to thousands and thousands of jobs. Okay. So basically through AI and deepfakes. And they would get all these jobs and they would be able to, either work at them on contract or get other people to work for them because they were using this deepfake technology. And there were like hundreds and hundreds of these jobs. Now they would get fired after a month because there was no activity. It was remote activity. It was basically they're moving their mouse. People could see, like whatever. But it's basically they were getting a month's free salary before they were fired or found out. But they were doing this with hundreds and hundreds of jobs. Think about that. Like, wow, like super creative, but for the wrong reasons. But it just goes to show that the technology these days is creating a lot of that mistrust, even with employers. And they have to deal with all these robot emails or robot CVs that are coming in now too, right? So employers have to deal with, is that a real person or not? Is that a real, is that a true CV or not? Is that a true, transcript or not? So there's a lot of things that are creating mistrust. So developing those relationships with people is going to make a huge difference. And the same thing on the business side, okay? Because is that a real person? Like I opened up my Zoom with this guy for real, and he's going like, "Oh, is that really you?" Right? First question he's asking me is that really you, or is that somebody else? So yeah, it's becoming a problem. Tom, did you have a question?
Yeah, I am a real person. When you're talking about building brand content, I realized I'm doing that for nonprofit that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And so I carry around on my phone, I got LinkedIn, I'm really good with the barcodes.
Yeah.
You scan, I scan. Like, everybody's into that.
Yeah.
But then I find I want to make a little note. Like I'm walking away from that person, I'm going to remember, and especially at a conference. Right?
Yeah.
A bunch of just I don't think there's anything in LinkedIn for that. Is there?
There's a place where you can put notes, but it's only if you're a first connect with them, right? And then you can add a few notes. But it's Surf does that. Surf allows you to add some additional information.
I want to get through on my phone. Or get more of
Yeah, you can do it on your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's enabled on both. So it's just an internet kind of overlay.
feature that-
Yeah. So look, LinkedIn has, LinkedIn has never really evolved that much. I think they want to leave it that way. It has enormous capabilities. It just never went to that next level, right? So I think I'm not sure why, because it has all the capability to become something even bigger, and people would probably pay for it if it allowed them to do a few things like we're talking about. But I don't think it's in their plans. Is there another question?
Yes, I heard like some companies away from resumes. They ask me, I see Info, and also I see one and American Zoo. I read it on asking not less resumes, but more building like projects and
Right.
then explain how to do this. Now, I don't know if that's a new concept because it's true what you were saying about building articles on a lot of people generate AI and everything, but would this be the new concept now? Big company, large company in the future as candidates build a prototype resume. Or
Yeah, I think it's always been there, right? That concept is kind of behavioral based hiring, right? So it's always been about like understanding how someone can actually do something. Like if I'm going to ask you a question, say, okay, well, you said you built this. How did you build it? Tell me the process of how you built this, and go into the details. It's much better than a resume because a resume doesn't do anything. A resume is paper. Behavioral based or project based or seeing something you actually built from scratch that's on GitHub and that I know is yours, and then I want you to explain how you built it on top of that is much stronger than anything else you can provide me on paper, right? But then the people that know you, that I actually can verify you with, is even more powerful, right? So like as someone that's been in the recruiting business for many years, and this is just common practice, right? So especially as you get into more senior ranks, you might give me 3 references, but I'm going to follow up with everybody that's connected to you, okay? Because I have this wide network, and I'm going to go like, oh, Danielle, like you worked with John before. I just kind of want to know your thoughts. It's not a reference check. It's just a personal, interaction with Danielle. So we don't tend to follow all the rules. Some recruiters do, but I don't, because we're responsible to our client that we're hiring this person for. So we're going to check the whole network. I'm going to check everybody you're connected with almost, right? To make sure that, you're who you are and you've done all this stuff. Now, when you're early on in your career, it's a little less that, but we're still going to check your Facebook. We're going to check everything. I'm going to check everything. It's like, you're going out on a date on, I don't know, use whatever, Tinder or whatever else, you're going to check out that person, right? So you're doing the same thing when you're doing recruiting. You're checking everything. You're trying to find every source out there on everybody. I mean, when I have a meeting, you believe me, man, I check that person out from one end to the other, because I want to know everything, because that's my angle. I'm going in and I'm saying, okay, well, this is what you do. I know what your business is now. Tell me more about this. Tell me more. I'm not going to start from scratch. Tell me about your business. I'm going to go like, I checked out your business. I know what it is. Here's what it is. Am I wrong? No. So you're doing your research, just like you should be doing when you're doing an interview. Don't go in there cold. You're calling a manager. You're sending someone out to hire a manager. You got to do all your research. It's the way it is. I don't go into any meeting without doing my full research. Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
I've run 50 recruiting events where there's typically like 50 students on a company. And some of the students will walk up and say, if it's a hiring manager with a technical guy, and say, hey, you know what, and that's a great conversation. But I've seen the six, you can go to the HR people and say, I don't have a resume, I have to do something. And there are people like, so you kind of need both.
Yeah.
I'd say, right?
Yeah, you need as many things as you can. Like, I mean, that's why I say, like, work on some projects. Work, if you have a website, get your website. If you've got written works, get them all together in one place. And it's so easy now, right? I mean, to me now, like, look, I did, this app, like, it's just like nothing now with by coding, right? Now, I'm not putting any personal information on here, but even if you were to put, some information about your work, you don't have to put your email, you don't have to put your address or anything like that. You can build something like that in a couple, like 4 hours, and you can have all your links in there. You can have all your GitHub tied to it, and that's what you're providing to your hiring manager. I mean, and isn't that impressive? You can actually do your UI UX on it. You can do everything. It's like, learn it, push yourself beyond, what you're doing, and do something like that. Now all of a sudden you've got a U page, and you can do it in minutes. Tie the right, just don't tie, private information onto it. It's not secure. So it's extremely easy. I mean, I build these apps, like, if I need something, like we're doing an event and presenting at the Next Generation Advanced Manufacturing, and we're doing a checklist for small companies and mid-sized companies on cybersecurity readiness for the market, like for global and accessing markets, national defense, and all that stuff. And we built an app using it, and we did it in a couple of hours. And they're going to be able to use it and get a questionnaire out of it, a checklist, so they can actually, use to do their work, and it's reusable. So I think if we can do that, you guys can do it, because I'm not like some master coder or anything like that. I'm just doing new things, learning new things, right? And I think you all have to challenge yourself to do something like that if you're finding work or you're building your business. If you don't know how to do it, then maybe one of the next things you do at a B-Sides here is show how you do that. It's that easy to build one of those applications and to layer it all in. And I think there's so many tools out there right now that I would have, when I was young, I would have gone like, oh my God, I used to have to type, and I was not a good typer. I'm talking old typewriters too. Yeah. So got amazing tools now. Oh. Get the right one.
You said Chrome, but if you change tab, you're gonna have to do it again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's better than full screen.
Oh. So I need to go full screen?
Yeah, full screen.
Stop sharing. No, I did that already.
Yeah, you go to share.
Yeah.
Click on share. I understand.
Yeah, I did that.
And then entire screen.
Ah.
And select that one. Yep, click on it. And then share.
Perfect. All right. All right. So again, we're just doing the reality. Where's your strongest where's your network strongest? Where's the weakest? Based on what you're trying to achieve, again, don't forget. LinkedIn, right? So your LinkedIn connections, your peers, that's the action plan. Just going to continue to the next one. the target network design, right? Key roles that influence your goal. This is really important. So if I'm building my business, right, and I'm looking at saying, okay, I want to build, I don't know, let's say national defense. We're building out on the national defense side. What are the roles that I need to approach as a business, okay, in this case, to create a network that's going to be influential, right? So, okay, they're going to be people in procurement, right? So key people that are playing roles in procurement. It could be CEOs of private companies, as an example, that are working at Thales or working at different companies like that. So you look at, first of all, you look at all the companies that are potentially involved in national defense, and some of it is related to government departments. Some of them are provincial, and then you're looking at all of the defense industry and all the associated defense industries. So it could be drone manufacturing, it could be all those kinds of things. And then basically you're listing all those names. And then you're going onto LinkedIn and identifying the people that have the right roles in those companies that you want to approach. Okay. So now you're looking at what are the titles that I need to reach out to and what size of company to be able to achieve my goal. So that's a little bit more tricky. And because every company uses their own titles, every company uses their own kind of, way of identifying people in their company, and they're different across industries. So I'll go back to an example as I'm building out, cybersecurity companies. Usually in Canada, if I'm reaching out to people to get companies to work with us, I'm looking for three things. I'm looking for country managers, right? They're looking for the country managers for that company in Canada. You're looking for the person that's in charge of field marketing, because they're going to have the marketing budget, right? And you're looking for the VP, usually of sales, because they have influence on how they spend their money in regards to potentially investing with us. So those are usually the three key roles. Now, sometimes it can change based on the size of the company. The reason it's important to identify these roles is that for everybody it's different, okay? And if you're looking for, I don't know, a pen testing job, well, you're going to have to identify what are those roles and those titles for you to approach in the company and how you grow your network. It could be pen testing, it could be a red teamer, it could be, right? It could be a whole pile of different names. And you can ask ChatGPT what those are and say, what are the different titles that people use for this different thing? And then you look for them on LinkedIn. You tie it to the company. You reach back, okay? So you go, hey, Canada-wide, pen testing, this industry, boom, 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 cybersecurity or AI or whatever your focus is. And then you identify those individuals, and those are the ones you try to connect with. Okay? So it's basically just a funnel, right? Or the flywheel that we talked about, which you're basically just identifying the people, company first, industry, titles. Okay? And then you connect with them. And then when you connect with them, you got to tell them something that's valuable enough that they want to actually be in touch with you. Then they want to meet with you. Then they actually want to interact with you. Then they want to invite you to do something with them, right? It takes time. So I gave an example today. I said, I'm going to speak in 2 weeks at the Net Diligence Conference. So Net Diligence Conference is, and don't want to insult anybody in here if anybody's an insurance or a lawyer, but they're all insurance brokers. They're all lawyers. They're all reinsurance brokers, which is they insure the insurance companies. Okay, so it's really interesting. But that's not my crowd, right? So this is my third year going to this conference. In the first 2 years, I think I was telling Andrew, I felt really uncomfortable, because everybody's in suits. No, I wear a suit, but I can wear a suit. They're all in suits. They all know each other. 600 people in a room, they all know each other, because they've all worked together for 20 years. And they talk a different language. They're not talking cybersecurity. They're talking like insurance and, cyber breaches through, legal channels and different things. And I'm going, whoa. So the first 2 years I was like sitting in that corner. It felt like I was sitting in that corner. I was still participating, but I was really struggling. And this year, because of the relationships I've developed and the work that we've done, I was invited to speak at, right? So I'm actually speaking with the insurance guys and the lawyers. I'm going, ooh, it's pretty scary stuff. But it just goes to show that if you build your network Okay, and you build your network, your brand, your influence. You get out of the corner and you speak to people, and you make the right connections. You're going to achieve your goals. Okay, you're going to achieve your goals. It might take time. So not all, like Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. It takes time. Some of them are harder than others to crack. And I think that's what's really important here is that, whatever you're trying to achieve, whatever goal you're trying to achieve, you can achieve it. You got to put your mind to it. It's like when I gave the example about marathons, but when I was like, I don't know, I was 42, I ruptured my Achilles. So my Achilles was like, I had to get sewn back on. Right? So it's like I was in a cast for 6 months. And I ended up, ballooning. I was like probably about 260 pounds. And just because all I can do was eat and no exercise. So after that happened, I actually, okay. So I actually, ballooned and completely useless, and I basically couldn't walk, just like this. So I started running. It's actually when I started running again, and I would go down the trail and I would hobble. And after about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, 2 or 3 weeks maybe, I started stretching that tendon enough that I was able to actually start, running a little bit. I was really out of shape. And then I ran my first 10K, and then I ran that first marathon and everything else. But I started telling people about my goals. I'm going to run that 5K. I'm going to try and go after, under 22 minutes. And then it was like under 20 minutes. And it was like, we're going to go for 18. We're going to go for 17, right? So I was getting really competitive. And the marathon, the same thing. But the whole point is you defined your goal, you communicate your goal, and you set a plan to achieve it. You can do that for anything, okay? Anything. Nothing is limited here. I don't believe in limitations. You just have to set your goal and not be afraid of it. And everybody's in a different part of their career. It's a case of just setting your mind, setting your goal, and achieving it. And if that's finding a job, I have another example of great job. It was someone I worked with, a York University student, 3 of them on a project, and I mentored all 3 of them. And they all have jobs now. Took a while. There were some challenges. One of them had a super amazing, outlook on the job because he was so open, so happy, so helpful. Second individual, actually the 2 of them, they were both very hard to break through on. And then I had to kind of, after mentoring him for a while and on a project that didn't do so well on, I had to say, look, it's not working out. Let's just take a break. And one of them reached out to me again afterwards and said, I've really rethought everything you said, and I want to work with you again. I want to, get some coaching. And so he's just landed a job as well. And I'm so happy for them because it's a case of changing outlook. It's not just about your technical skills. It's about you as a person accepting who you are and accepting your limitations, but also accepting that you are a lot stronger than you are. It really is. And I know I feel like I'm preaching, but that's the way I've lived my life for the last 20 years. Because like I said before that, I was kind of like struggling a little bit, like everybody else does at some point in their life. There was a question.
Yeah, so
Sorry, I'm just gonna come back a little.
you briefly touched on the question I want to ask earlier. You were talking about confidence and the ego of maybe talking in the corporate level.
Yeah.
My question relates to someone that just moved back to the just area.
Yeah.
And most of the time when I go online, the responsibility, role responsibility, and all that stuff, being new to that area, the imposter syndrome in that person, that's what I want to ask a question relating to. How maybe remove it in order to, maybe you want to apply for a job, you already see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candidates. Leave it up. Or 1, 2, 3, maybe it's only 2 out of 8.
That you can do, you mean? That you have the skills to do?
So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you just fill out and all stuff.
Yeah, I think most job descriptions that are out there are asking for the world. Like they really are, right? I mean, they're way above and beyond anything that a normal person can do. they're always asking for someone that's like the perfect unicorn. And I think, you know, in some cases, I'm not saying that companies aren't looking for that person. Sometimes they are, and they're very, 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 very strict. And that's the company. That's the way they do it. But they're going to wait a long time, and maybe they won't find that person, and maybe they're not that serious about hiring that person in the first place. Now, for a lot of other companies, you know, if they get 7 out of 10, they're going to be happy. At some point, they're going to realize they can't find a unicorn, and the unicorn's not moving from, you know, big company, and they're going to hire that person. So I think, you know, one of the things that I've heard a lot of is, yeah, you get the imposter syndrome. You don't feel comfortable. You don't think you should apply, but I'm a believer that, you know, you should still apply. Just because you don't have the specific skill set in some cases doesn't mean you don't have the competency to deliver on it. And I think that, yeah, maybe you're going to need some training. Maybe you need some upgrading on some things. Why shouldn't the company invest in you if they think they have the right person? So there's nothing wrong with trying, as long as it's, you know, I mean, it's a stretch, but you can't have a massive stretch, right? If you don't hit all 10 and you're hitting like 7, I'd apply for it. And I think there's still can be some companies that are going to realize it. Now, maybe when they first post it, maybe it's not going to happen because they're waiting for the unicorn. But that unicorn is not usually going to show up. You know, there's not, you know, most unicorns are quite happy out there. They're in their job somewhere, and you know, they're not moving. Or if they're moving, they're making their own moves. They're not applying. They're not going to a job. They're going to have a network. They're going to have a network of people that want to hire them already. So those jobs never even make it onto the job post. Like my jobs, like I do searches, I don't post them. I just find the people, right? So I mean, people reach out to me and say, "Hey, can you find me a job?" And they go, "I only do retained search." Well, the retained search is for the customer. Customer wants somebody. I go out and find them, right? I don't look for someone and say I can fit you into this job. That's very, very rare. I can recommend you. So I do that a lot. I'll say, hey, you know, if I see someone that's hiring for that, I'll recommend you, or I'll send you the job. I do that a lot, but I don't recruit people for a job. I recruit them myself, right? So I think the case is that, yeah, I would still apply. And I think the key there is that, and I think it's even, I think, you know, the philosophy of it is a lot of people have that imposter syndrome. But I think if you start talking in a community like this, most people have that feeling. You know, nobody feels 100%. Like I'm going to walk into that same conference in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to feel, you know, a little jittery, right? Because they're different than most of the people I interact with. And it's not that I don't belong; it's that I feel like I don't belong, right? And because of that, they probably feel like I don't belong. Right? Because you send out your own vibes. We talked about this whole thing about, you know, pushing too hard for a job, being desperate. But when you're in a meeting like that with people you're not comfortable with, there's a little bit of that energy that's going out. So I think you just gotta go with it. You know, more and more now my approach is just go and choose. Like, hey, what's gonna happen? You're gonna have a few people that are gonna be rude to you. Like seriously, that's about the worst that can happen. So what, right? You're never going to see them again, most probably. So, you know, make yourself uncomfortable. Go talk to people, and if they end up being unkind, just walk away. Yeah.
I think the question of confidence comes with heaviness. Sometimes people are really afraid to try.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better to try and fail than being afraid of trying.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you keep waiting to be fully confident, that time might not come.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case for some people, because sometimes you see some easy persons like, maybe I can try this. The other side of it is telling you, what if you try and fail? So that confidence you were saying, that 10 out of 10 is not there, but maybe 7. If you feel like you have a 7, you can try.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think so. I mean, everybody's going to be uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable in a lot of situations. I don't think, you know, maybe I'll achieve it. And you set goals that are pretty, you know, you put stretch goals, right? You do things that you go, I'll try and do this year. And you're still not always confident you're going to do it. But, you know, I think as maybe it's, you know, for me, and I'll give you my example. Like I said, I feel like I matured later. As you get older, you've tried these things before, so you know what works and what doesn't. So most of the time when you have a gut feel, like when I have a gut feel, it's gonna work, right? Yeah, I'll fail still, but it's gonna work most of the time because you have the past, you have all the experience of what fails. Like, you know, my first company failed, right? And it was just because the timing was way off. I was way ahead of the market, right? And when you learn that lesson, it's painful because you go, oh my God, you know, I just love that thing. You know, I just was so happy doing it. And you just realize the timing sucked. You're way ahead of it. I mean, at the time I was doing it, you know, it was a service company. This is a long time ago. And people are going, the venture capitalists are going, is that hardware or is that software? No, it's not neither. People didn't know what a service company was. Back then, it was all hardware or software. If you weren't doing that, nobody's giving you money. So you learn those tough lessons and you remember them. And when you're running a business, it's the same thing. You have so much to learn that you're going to fail sometimes when you're doing it the first few times. Nobody hits a home run, you know, the first time. It's rare because you're going to make big mistakes along the way. And the same thing for job searching. You're going to make mistakes, so don't be afraid of mistakes. You know, I think it's about trying. It's the same thing like with AI now and everything else. Just try things, just play with it. You know, see what your limitations are. Yeah. All right, everybody. I hope everybody had a bit of a break because that was good. Two things I wanted to mention because I don't think everybody knew is one thing you do want to do is you do want to copy that link because that link is everything that I talked about and a lot more. Okay, so it gives you the whole worksheet to do everything that you need to. Like I said, you may not want to do everything. It's entirely up to you, but it gives you all the steps. It'll tell you your progress, and there's tools in there. There's communities in there. There's all kinds of things. It provides you with a PDF workday 90-day plan once you've completed it, and it also provides you with an AI assessment. Okay, so it'll give you an AI assessment saying here are the things you've done well. Here's some things you might still need to do. Okay. And if you can give me your feedback as well, so you see things that are missing, because I'm sure I didn't do a perfect job. I didn't, because I built this like for this session. I will add more to it so we can help more people. Okay, so it's just kind of like I wanted to build something that we can reuse. And then the second thing is, one of the things I mentioned is if you're part of a group on LinkedIn, you're part of the Canadian Cybersecurity Network group or something like that. One of the advantages you have is that once you're part of a group, and a lot of people don't know this, is you can actually communicate with the people in that group. Okay, so like this is a huge advantage, right? It means unless they blocked it, you know, unless they've gone to their LinkedIn, you know, competency thing and they blocked some things, you can communicate with anybody in that group. Now, again, don't hound them, don't do crazy things, or you're just going to get blocked. You're going to get told that from at LinkedIn that you shouldn't be on it. But you can connect with people in a group. Okay? So there's a huge advantage in being part of groups on LinkedIn because you can actually communicate. You don't need to be first-to-first connection. Okay, if you're part of a group, you're part of a group. So again, something you can use. There's little things like that that are really, really helpful. But definitely take advantage of this app. We'll make it better. It's there. It's available. I'll probably put it under the CCN domain at some point. Right now, it's just under the app domain. So we'll continue here. Obviously it says things like discover the community, discover events. We also have on the Canadian Cybersecurity Network a site that's all the events in Canada for cybersecurity or IT or business. It doesn't have them all, but there's a lot of them on there. There's about 150 or so, I think, for the year. So that means you can find events you can go to. Some of them are no charge. Some of them are webinars. Some of them are conferences. So please look at that. See what's going on in your city or going on in cities you're going to. Companies can also self-serve on that platform, so they can go in and put their events. So we try to do it so that we're not doing all the heavy lifting all the time. We don't have time to do all that, right? So we do some of that heavy lifting, and then we let companies do that. So anytime there's an event or a company or something in your company, people can put it on there, and it's just a self-serve for the community. Okay, so a good way to find stuff. Get mentors, collaborators. Skip through this. Obviously on the LinkedIn, and a great thing to do, and I'm sure people are doing this. You're using the LinkedIn people also viewed. It's right there on the right hand side. Tells you that the other people in that company that maybe you should be interacting with. Leverage that. It gives you kind of a sneak guide. Doesn't always work. It's kind of strange sometimes how it works, but it's much better to focus on companies and then find the leads you need in there. So I'm just going to skip through here. Positioning. Okay, so this is important. This is a step that we were talking about. We haven't gone in, but clarifying the value you bring to others. Okay, so again, everybody has a unique value and unique values. And I think that's what people need to find. Sometimes, when I was younger, I had no clue what it was, right? And maybe I wasn't doing enough, soul searching, or maybe I didn't have the guidance, or maybe whatever. But you need to find out what that is, and then you put it on paper. And it could be something very specific. It could be you're just an amazing, amazing hacker, and you're doing all this great stuff on Hack the Box and all those other platforms, and you're one of the leaders. And people will value that. And they're going to see that skill set and what you've done and what you've accomplished. You could be a great coder. You could be many, many things. And I think the key is finding out what that is. Some people, I was talking to someone that says they were in marketing. Okay, well, what makes you good at marketing, right? What are the things that you can bring? Are you good at SEO? Are you good in lead generation? What are the aspects that you're good at that can be leveraged by a company? So you need to put that into some words. Don't leverage AI. If you're not comfortable in writing yourself, look at AI, make sure that it's well, and then put your own tone to it. Okay, so don't just use the AI stuff. Okay, it makes a lot of mistakes, by the way. But if you're just using it for a statement, it will give you a decent statement, but then rework it. Okay, it helps a lot. You're going to avoid spelling mistakes, you avoid grammar mistakes. Now you can still spell check it, look for, you got to give some guidance to the AI systems, but definitely leverage it for these kinds of things. It's going to accelerate everything you're doing. Who do you help, right? How does it help you? Be specific about your audience. Who are you helping with the skills that you have? And I think that's, again, really, really important. Same thing if you're doing a business. What problem do you solve, right? What problem are you solving to help this company or your clients? Be very, very clear about that. Again, very short, concise statements are always best. You can always add more to it. Proof of credibility, what supports your expertise, experience, project, publications. We talked about that. If I was looking for a job today, I would definitely leverage a project like the vibe coding, like Lovable and all those projects. I would go on there and say, here are all the things that I do. And I would tie every piece of advice that I have from, my projects, my experience, the tools that I use, the writings that I've done, blogs, anything. And I would put them all in one place on their beautiful UI UX format. And man, you've got you're way ahead of everybody else sending your resume. It's phenomenal what you can do these days, and with no money spent or a couple of dollars spent, and you're going to have it for life, and you're going to keep adding and building to it in seconds. It's like, wow, it's like, I used to have to type a resume, and then have to do a cover letter. And then I had to, figure out okay, I'm going to have to apply, mail it in. I had to do all these things when I was young. It's crazy. Now, just create it all in about a couple of hours on a platform. So leverage it. Yeah.
You said something earlier. Just want to add to it because it's like a statement.
Yeah.
One time I did an interview for a company, and I was telling the company, oh, these are my skills. This is what I can do. This is it. She was like, okay, but what can you do for my company? What can you do? What can you do? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm really good at this. I do this with passion. I can do this all day. So I was like, I told them, for example, if you have a project or you have a company you deal with, they're late on the project, and you're calling them, they say, oh, I'm 2 weeks away, and you called 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks, and they're not done. I'm really good at that. So I told her that, and she said, okay, yeah, okay. And then continuing the interview, I was able to be more different because when she told me that, I was able to be more comfortable with her.
Right.
And then when I was working for the company, so one time, so I was working by myself, and my colleague was working, and I overheard her on the phone. She was like, "Okay, because she's calling to find out about a product, but they don't know what the product is." So I was like, "What do you mean?" I asked myself, "What do you mean you know what a product is? You're supposed to know, okay, the last place it goes here, right?
Right.
So you should be able to, okay, it should be around BC or around that area." I was like, you should know." So I was like, "Hey," so I handle it silently.
Nice.
It's my secret.
But I think what you're saying is key, right? I mean, it's like it's clarifying your value, and I think the more concrete you can be, the better. And the great thing about it is that with these platforms, as an example, is you can put it all in one place. Because people are always going to, we were talking about, people want to kind of validate your skills because, I mean, nobody trusts your skills anymore until did you really do that? Is it AI talking or, whatever. So people are going to want to validate your skills. So you're going to want to be able to show them examples. Now, there's still going to need to dig into that because, I mean, AI could have created what you're creating, right? So it's kind of like you're going to need to back it up. You need to be able to back up what you've done. Because I mean, that's really where everything's going. They're going to want to go, okay, well, show me, right? You're going to need to be validated a lot more than you used to be, and I think that's really, really important. So the credibility you build through your network gets you way past all of these other steps because you're already, that much higher in the standings because of the people and the people that you've actually been able to reference as you get into this opportunity. If you can go like, hey, you're talking to this person, like more and more, like I'm always talking to someone now and I'm going like, oh yeah, this person. The conversation goes off into another direction. And it's always like that now. And we're doing it, I'm doing it 10 times a day, 20 times a day, where you're having a conversation and I know someone and they know the same person. And all of a sudden it's like, they're off to the races. Right. So it's definitely important that you do that, but use the tools, like whatever tools you're comfortable with, use them. Just make sure that they paint a true picture of who you are, because credibility is the number one thing that takes a long time to build, really easy to destroy. Okay. So signal certifications, obviously, I mean, not that I'm a believer that you need certifications and everything. You can do a job without certifications. Some people I've met some of the best pen testers in the world, have 0 certifications, 0 training, all self-taught. There are some people that are able to do it. Now, having said that, education, certifications, they're fantastic. But does everybody need them to be successful? No. And do employers all want those? A lot of them are asking for them, but a lot of employers actually look way beyond that. They're looking for innate skills, right? So all kinds of things there, lots of tips. Your networking introduction, how are you going to introduce yourself? Well, introduce yourself as with credibility and just the way you are as a person. Don't try to be someone you're not. Now, make sure that the writing doesn't have any errors, good grammar, all that kind of stuff. Get ChatGPT to check it out. And then have a friend and have some people like validate it. Like, don't be shy about getting feedback. Like, actually ask people. They'll tell you. But make sure you have some people on there that are going to be critical as well. Okay, because you want people to give you feedback. I get it. I mean, like I sent some stuff out today for the presentation I'm doing, the workshop I'm doing in NGen conference. We're doing a workshop. Well, I sent it out to some people to get some feedback. And I'm sure I'm going to get some feedback because I sent it to some people that are really, really, really tough. So I expect that I'm going to have a lot of work to do tomorrow and have to rework this presentation. And that's okay. Because their input's going to make me help. So do the same thing when you're doing something like a network introduction. Like how are you going to introduce yourself to people? And that introduction is going to change depending on who you're writing it to. It's not always the same. Okay, because you're going to write something about that person or that company or about yourself that you know will potentially get you more visibility and give you the opportunity to, you know, create a better relationship with that person. But don't overthink it. Just do something that is going to be memorable. So there's, you know, examples, obviously, you know, here just to give you some guidance. Update your LinkedIn profile. So this is a big one. I still see a lot of LinkedIn profiles that are just brutal. You know, I mean, and one of the first things is, you know, as a recruiter, when you go to a LinkedIn profile, you know, the first thing you see when you're doing a search is the titles at the top, right? So you're seeing, you know, the couple of lines at the top. And some people like put nothing in there, or they put something that's completely irrelevant. And if I don't see anything, it's gone. Like, it's like I don't even open that profile, because why am I going to click on a profile I don't see anything about? Or you got to try and make it like, I understand like people not putting their picture, and I understand people like not putting their title and not putting, but once you don't have like what your goal is or your title is or something, what, no matter what it is, like try to fill out your profile so that it actually looks like it's a finished profile. Because as a recruiter, like if you go and look at a list of LinkedIn people, I don't know, we take a look right now, maybe just get an example here. I don't know. I'll just do a quick search. Let's do, I don't know, let's do a SOC analyst list. I'm just gonna pop it up here, I can't see. So let's see if there's some that, you know, aren't cool people. Right, let's look, location, Canada, just bring up some results. So we got a bunch here. It's okay to not obviously put your full name, that's fine. But in some cases, in these cases, they're looking pretty finished. But a lot of people don't have a title. And you're like, well, why wouldn't you put a title or put something about yourself? Because when they don't have anything, and I know they're pretty complete here, you have no view as to who they are. And there's a lot of these. Like, go through some pages and you'll see that a lot of people they don't complete their profile. And they have no statements about what they want. Be very explicit about what you want, because that's what people are looking for. As a recruiter, I'm looking, okay, what does this person want to do? They're applying for a SOC analyst position, but they're not advertising a SOC analyst position. I'm scratching my head a bit, right? They say they want to, I don't know, do something completely different. So make sure that whatever you're presenting is, you know, what you're trying to attract, right? Again, I'll refer back to the people that are still in the dating game, right? If you're positioning yourself completely wrong in the marketplace, well, you're attracting the wrong people. So it's the same thing in the job market. You wanna be able to put a profile in there in LinkedIn that employers or people that are going to be wanting to hire you are going to want to click on. Okay, so sounds very simple, but it's really important to do that, because you'll be skipped otherwise. So here's some tips, right? We talked about it. LinkedIn profile, headline, summary, clearly explain your published at sites. You speak at events if you can. If you don't, even if it's a small event, like if you have an opportunity to speak at B-sides, take it, right? Because it's practice. And it's an easy audience. You guys are an easy audience, I hope. You know, you're gonna have people that are feeling the same way. They're trying to build their career. They're trying to build their business. So they're going to be very helpful for you. That's what the community is all about. So, you know, put yourself out there. And I think, you know, the more you do it, the better, the easier it gets. So there's a whole bunch of things here. There's, like I said, it'll score you. So I think it's important. Visibility ideas, CTF write-ups, CVE disclosures. There's lots of things you can do. And that's part of the things that we're offering at CCN. I'm sure B-sides offers the same thing. They offer volunteer opportunities. We have a whole bunch of volunteer opportunities. Sometimes we have too many volunteers, but sometimes we tap into those volunteers for different projects. We were just working with Kokila and I'm trying to remember her name, Monsuma, that are both here in Ottawa to help us with the events guide. So they helped us do that, right? So I mean, that's amazing, because We gave them credit for it, and they did some Masumi, yeah. Yeah. So they, they helped with the project. They volunteered on the project, and we were able to use their skills, and it's fun. It's phenomenal because it helps the whole community, right? So feel free to volunteer in different communities like that. So there's outreach best practices here. Put them all in there for you guys. Your mentor outreach messaging. CCN does have a mentor program. So we're always looking for mentors and mentees. So there's an opportunity there. A lot of other programs have it as well. So take advantage of those things. Peer connection message, here are all the messages you can develop. Again, what I suggest is to do these, then check them out with your peers. Get some critical feedback. Don't just send them out, okay? Feel free, like some of you, and I think it's like these kind, like the meetups, anytime you can get into a community group and just talk about it, say, does this work? Does this resonate? Because, and get some hiring managers in there to give you some, like Jared hires, a lot of people in this room are hiring managers. They have an opportunity to potentially give you some feedback. Like Tom was here, he's always looking for people. We had someone here from CSE. We have, there's people that were here today and that are here that can give you some employer feedback. Okay.
I'm retired now. I don't.
Oh, there he is. Well, you're always looking for volunteers.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, we're talking about the relationship strategy. You need to maintain those intentionally, meaning that, if you're developing a relationship with someone, you got to feed it. As an example, like what, Jarrett, we've had probably since last year, 3 or 4 meetings. Yeah, a couple of lunches. And that's how you develop a relationship, right? You build on it and do that with everybody. Like I think Tom, the first time we met was just like over coffee with a couple of people from your team, and we stayed in touch. And I interviewed you and stuff. So you feed opportunities, you look at opportunities, you create a collaboration that actually works for both people. Both people have to have something out of it. So you can't always be taking, you can't always be giving. And that's really, really important. It's the same thing with Danielle. Like Danielle and I have been working together since last year, right? So we're doing lots of different types of things, and a lot of it is it's not like it's money generating. It's stuff that we're doing that's helping each other, and hopefully for the good of the community, and hopefully it does pay off at some point. But I think it's those kinds of things that we invest in. Same thing I'm doing with Net Diligence. Same thing I'm doing with a lot of individuals, where I don't expect anything back in return. It's not the way I function. I function in a way that I give, and I hope that people that I'm working with are going to give back. And maybe they don't give back for 3 years. I'll give you one example. There's a CEO that I started working with about 4 years ago. He'd never worked in Canada. He started a company here in Canada. It's an OT company, and he reached out to me wanting help on building his company. He just was really struggling with how to build a company in Canada. And he had worked in Dubai, he had worked in Germany, he had worked in India, and brilliant, smart guy. His business was very successful, and he asked for help, and I helped him for a couple of years. I kept helping him, giving him some tips, introducing him to some people, and then it was last year he reached out to me and says, it's my turn to give back. He says, we're going to sponsor, the OT project. You're in Toronto next week. I'm taking you out to lunch. I'm taking you out to dinner. You're going to meet my family. It was like, and I said, well, you don't have to do that. Like, it wasn't about that. But then you create a friendship and you create a relationship that goes way beyond. And people recognize that. They recognize that you're actually genuine. And I think that's really, really important. I use that word quite a bit, genuine, meaning that you are who you are. And it's not perfect. Like, people will tell me all my whole life, you're like such a big personality, right? I'm going like, I can't do anything about it. It's just who I am. I'm passionate. I talk about who I am, and some people take it the wrong way, but it's who I am. And, I've just given up on trying to explain it. And I think everybody has their own view, and I don't think you should hide it. When people say you should be different, I think they want you to be different for them, not for you, because it's not who you are. No, and we're not perfect. I'm not saying we don't have to work on what we're not good at, but and we're not always right. That's for sure. But I think be you and be genuine, and I think people will relate to you much better. Um, I've got another good friend. He's on my board. And, he's very clear, and he's a great guy. And he was always talking about when he first came to Canada. He had this massive accent, and it really made him feel like he couldn't be successful. That people wouldn't take him seriously. And just this past year, I'm trying to remember what's that? The big, everybody wants to speak on this. TED Talks. Yeah, TED Talks. So he actually did a TED Talk on his accents and how it's basically defined him, right? And as a person now, and how he feels so comfortable that he has this accent because it actually makes him different than everybody else, and it makes him stand out. And he's been very successful because of it. And I think there's a lot of people see their faults as a weakness, but it's actually a strength. So I think we all need to reassess who we are and be more genuine about who we are, and it represents us really well in the job market and in our careers. It's our own baggage, right? We all have baggage. So I think that's important. And then don't just go out there. We just talked about. Don't just go out there about seeking help for yourself. Help others, and it doesn't mean that you're in a position you can help a lot of people. When you're starting off your career, but try to find a way to do it in one way, shape, or form. It could be really simple. It could be like, it could be just you could help to volunteer somewhere that someone helped you. You could, write some kind words. It doesn't have to be much. It's like people. It's this thing, right? People think they need to give you a gift. Who cares? I can buy myself a gift if I want, right? I mean, I don't want a gift. I want people to be genuine. I want people to just say thank you and be real. And I think that is enough for me. I don't really care about gifts. Never have. So I think it's more about that kind of feeling that you're getting something really real with that person. Because it means going out and spending $50 or so what? I'm not going to be impressed by it. So don't buy me a gift. Just be real and tell me something that's actually true. So be prepared to help other people. And we talked about communities to participate in because they're all going to have potential clients, potential employers. Apply the flywheel. So all these examples are here. There's links. There's when you're meeting people, how you define the relationship, where did you meet this person, where could you realistically meet them. So I think there's this whole thing too of trying to define where you meet people you need to meet. And I think that's really, really important. So go out of your way to go to some meetings or go to some events. There's a lot of free things out there. And I think sometimes you'd be surprised who you may bump into that can actually provide you with an opportunity. I mean, I take the train a lot. Sometimes I'm on the train and just happen to be sitting beside someone that becomes a client. It's just like, what? Right? Or you bump into someone that knows somebody that and all of a sudden it creates another relationship. So I think you need to leverage those kinds of opportunities. You never know when they're going to show up. And it's not like you're hard selling. You're never hard selling, okay? Talk from your heart, be real, be passionate, and people will gravitate to what you're saying. Again, just some quick questions. What is one natural reason to connect with them? Those kinds of things. We've got a couple of videos here, and I've made some links and some comments. You can see the flywheel example down below. You can see how to use it. So I've created those things in there for you. We'll go through them. Tools to build, right? So you got the flywheel. Obviously, how you use LinkedIn more better. Identifying potential connections. So actually, there's a worksheet here in regards to how you do it. It'll all be saved in the PDF and all be saved in the tools at the bottom. So I'll let you guys use that. And then it also, just go through these because it's all the same. And then all of these are examples and tools. You can open each one of them. So the tools that you can use, the AI research, all that stuff is all embedded in here. So you've got all the tools. You can open them up. Prospecting tools, everything from surf to everything else is in here. So it gives you a lot of things that you can use, but I won't go through that. And then this one here is the 90-day working action plan. So you're developing that. Okay, so what are the key actions you're going to take? What are the momentum? What are the key actions? What is growth? And then basically the detailed action categories. What you're going to do. So you'll get all those from the link, and then different tools, so that, and then you put some KPIs. I'm a big believer that you put some metrics. Don't make it complicated. Make it simple. Simple goals, simple metrics. Because if you can measure, you know your results. I never went into training or doing a race without having a target and having actual metrics. I knew exactly. When I was racing, I knew exactly what my body weight had to be. I knew exactly what my fat percentage, my water concentration, everything. Because when you're that competitive and you're trying to do better, you know all your metrics. And when your race day came along, they had to be right there. So yeah, it's a little crazy because you get a little intent. But it's the same thing when you're job searching or building a business. You're looking at metrics. What are your sales? What's your profitability? How many sales calls have you made? How many people have you converted? Whatever metrics you are for your business, customer satisfaction. Same thing for jobs. How many jobs have you applied to? How many people have reached back to you? What's your success rate? How many interviews? Any job offers? Feedback. What's the feedback? I always ask that question. Did you get any feedback during your interviews? And if you didn't get any feedback, please ask for feedback. Now, having said that, some people won't give you feedback because they're too worried about giving you feedback. Now, having said that, really good recruiters will give you feedback. And good potential business partners will give you feedback as well. So when I don't get, an opportunity, I'm going to ask, why are you not interested in doing business? I want to know why. Is it pricing? Is it related to my approach? Is it related to timing? Is it because they don't have the budget? What's the reason? Because you want to understand it so you can make some changes in your product or in your approach. So I think it's really, really important to ask. And it's the only way to change what you need to change. So you need to ask for feedback. And if you're not getting any feedback, why don't you do some mock interviews with some people? My wife's daughter, because I got remarried, and her boyfriend were going to med school. Okay. So the first year they struggled and didn't get in. Okay, because it's very difficult, especially when you're from out of a province and you move to a new province, which is BC, and you have to be able to meet the standard of that school, and they mostly hire people from that were part of that province. It's all kinds of rules. It's really weird. So they were brilliant, some of the best grades ever, but they weren't good at doing interviews. And it's very tough, these interviews. So what did we do? I interviewed. I drilled them. I'm good at doing interviews. So we did interview after interview on camera. And I wanted to show the weaknesses. I wanted to show how they they weren't smiling. Maybe they were hesitating on something, or maybe they made some no body language or too much body language, or because people don't always feel comfortable in interviews. You feel very different in an interview. So I think it's really, really good practice to get that kind of feedback, because in real life you can be really calm, but in an interview things change. You get a little hot, you're getting a little uncomfortable, you're worried about that first question, did I dress right? All these questions are hitting you. So do some interviews with people, and you want the people to be tough on you, because a lot of people won't tell you the truth. And I think that's really, really important. And they both got into med school, different places, but and one's a doctor, one's finishing his PhD before he goes to become a doctor. So I think they've been successful, but it's a lot of work, and they were very disappointed when they didn't get in that first year. And I think it's the same thing for everybody. You're going to go through disappointments. So ask for the people around you to help you and support you. And look at all the people in this room. I'm sure there's tons of people that would get together and just, and JP here, JF, I should say, on camera here. Yeah, JF.
Doesn't matter. That's fine.
He's got the camera, he can maybe do some interviews. I'll come back and do some interviews. I'm a tough one though, believe me. So
Been a good exercise with someone
yeah,
to do it for 5 minutes.
yeah. No, it's great. You want to do it right now?
Me, but maybe somebody.
Does someone in the audience want to do an interview? Live. Okay.
You get to practice
You get to practice. You get to come in front with me.
with a real guy.
All right. Are you looking for work?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
What kind of work are you looking for?
So I'm looking for junior cybersecurity analyst position right now.
Awesome. Okay.
If you guys go a little bit more towards,
Yeah.
go towards the end of that thing there. Yeah.
Yes, right now.
About that, I should be.
All right. So you say your name was again? Sorry.
My name is Yusuf. Yusuf.
Yusuf. Okay. Yusuf. So wonderful. We're going to start right here. I'm going to be like formal. Oh, we need a mic.
Oh.
You put that on.
Yeah. All right.
Yusuf, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Thanks for
you.
coming for the interview.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about yourself.
So I just wrapped up my cybersecurity analyst program about 2 months ago.
Okay.
I currently work at a computer repair shop, so I work with like refurbished computers, just updating them. I also work on computer repairs as well. I'm in the middle of getting a couple certifications,
Okay.
and I'm looking to like break into this new field.
What are the certifications you're trying to get right now?
So I have my ASW
Okay.
certification Amazon, and my Computer A Plus. But I'm still working on my Network Security Plus, my Network Plus and Security Plus and Linux as well.
Okay. And how well did you do in your programs at school?
I did fairly well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were the grades? I'm just curious as to what you
So it was 80 average. So
Okay.
Roughly 80s and 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you think you'd be a good fit for a company?
So I'm pretty adaptable. I dedicated a year and a bit to like be up in new skills, and this is like a really interesting field that I find like amazing and challenging, which is something I always love. I always love like a new challenge.
Okay.
And yeah, no, I'm looking to break this field because I find it very interesting and I enjoy
Okay.
working on.
Have you done any AI projects to date? Have you worked with AI? And can you tell me a bit about that?
I cannot say I've worked on AI projects. That's something that's something that I probably still have to do a little bit more work on. But I'm open to learning.
Okay. And if I talk to people that really know you well, what would they say about you? What would be the things
They would say that I'm hardworking.
Okay.
That I really enjoy like constructive criticism and enjoy working on meeting expectations and have a positive can-do attitude. So yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Well, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. Good job. Good job. You did a good job, and the only thing I would say is that, you were getting a little uncomfortable. A couple times you got uncomfortable, and that's normal. I don't think it was anything bad. I think, you can react to feeling a little tension. I think as long as and he was, kind of going with it. When I asked you the AI question, I think you could have answered it a little differently. But I think that's a tough one. Like, you were honest, but I think you could also kind of mention, like, hey, yeah, I have a significant interest in this area and I want to develop it a bit more. But I think overall you did really well. And I think your body language is good. We're both standing and you were like facing me and you're looking at me. So I think actually you did a good job. So are you finding, so I'll ask the question, are you getting any feedback during interviews?
So like compiling those projects, I have been like giving out cover letters and
Okay.
resumes and stuff. Oh yeah, I've been giving out cover letters and resumes and stuff. But I think like you mentioning that, and even like that checklist, I think will really like set the game because competition is really tough right now. So
Yeah, you gotta look at every advantage. But no, I think it did well. So, like I said, I think the more interviews you do, the less you get nervous. And so I think it's just practice. It's just practice, and I think you did well. So just do more interviews, right? I mean, and that's why I said I think it's important for people to match up and feel comfortable, because even that little sign of nervousness can make people feel a little, they just kind of like the hiring manager feels a little low. Why is this person nervous? You start reading into things, and it doesn't mean it's true. It just means it's just another little tidbit that potentially a hiring manager will go, oh, this person versus this person.
I feel like
right.
How do you get over like that nervousness? Like, 'cause I definitely did feel it. Like, how do you, and like it does happen sometimes. Like, how do you get over like that nervousness?
Practice.
Yeah,
it's just practice. It's like getting in front of a group like you guys, right? You got to figure out if you're going to just go with the flow. You make a mistake, you can't. You have to just feel comfortable, and I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you are. Like, I stopped public speaking for years. I stopped. Like, I didn't do it for years, and I'm just starting to get back into it. When I was younger, when I was in my 20s or my 30s, I used to go up all the time, and I was a lot more comfortable back then than I was now. I had a lot less knowledge, but I was a lot more comfortable back then. I was like, maybe too much, but it takes practice, because you get to a point where you don't need paper, you don't get to think about it. It's just normal communication. It's just a conversation. I do podcasts as an example, and I ask one question, and then I just let the conversation roll. So that conversation, that first question leads to that answer from that person, and then that answer goes to my next question, my next question, my next question. I don't look at any questions after I ask my first question, because it's a natural flow. It's a conversation, and I think it's just, you get to a point where you get comfortable just doing it. Now it's almost like an interview for me, right? So I'm basically interviewing a person and just asking questions around cybersecurity. I could be talking about, quantum technology, or I could be talking about AI, or I could be talking about stocks, or whatever, but it doesn't really matter because I know all the technology. I'm not an expert in any of those areas, but I understand all the technologies, and I also understand all the business language. Right? So you just get to a point where you feel comfortable. So practice. So, I really tell people, especially people that are uncomfortable with interviews, do them with a group like this. Get 3-4 people together just to do interviews, but make sure there's someone in that room that's really critical. Because, again, point to one of my friends, one of my advisors. He invited me to his house. I stayed overnight there, and we're going to a show the next day, and I could hear him talking to customers, and he was doing a customer interview. And I gave him some feedback after, because I said, like,
want to do a second? Sorry, I don't want to intervene in your conversation. If you want to keep going,
yeah.
Want to do a second?
No,
no,
not right now. Maybe in a bit, but yeah, the point was on that is that I gave him feedback right after he came out of it, because I said, one of the things you were doing is you were talking too fast. He was trying to get his business message out so much, because he knew he had limited time. You got half an hour with the customer, and you're trying to get your message out. But he wasn't giving the customer enough time to talk. And the customers, they're going to have questions. They're going to have things that, and you got to give them that space for them to be able to ask that question. And he was kind of like jamming everything in. And, he's really good at what he does, and he's technically brilliant. But, that little bit of advice he accepted. He was very open to it. And I think that's really important. You have to be open to the advice that people will give you. Doesn't mean they're always right, but I think that's how you build your skills. Yes.
So what advice would you give, like the top 5 things that you should prepare for to get you to an interview? Like, what are recruiters looking for? What would make the differentiation between you and everybody else?
I think it has a lot to do, well, a couple of things. One is just the research. So always research a company you're going into and have some things that you're ready to talk about, right? Second, that you're going to be ready to talk about how you actually did the stuff that you say you can do, right? So you got to be able to back it up with real examples and show how you actually, did something at a past job, or you did something on a project, or how you would do something if you learned something. So I think those are the two basic ones. The third one is to be genuine, is to come in and actually be you, and to project that. So that means that when you're comfortable, you're talking to those individuals. If it's one person or two person, three persons in the room, sometimes they switch it up, and you're having a conversation with them. And I would say that just by doing that, just by having that ability to, feel confident without being overconfident, I think will be a great ground setter. So I think those three things are the beginning of it. I would say the next one is to be able to, again, it comes back with the third one, which is, sometimes like show some personality. It's almost like you
Something they can remember you back. Yeah.
smile a bit, I've had interviews with people that are so glum, they're just, they don't smile. They don't give you any visibility as to who they are. So it's not like, do you want to work with that person? Like, seriously, like, no, seriously. So it's have a bit of, no, I'm not saying smile all the time. Like, you don't want, like smiley person, because you feel like they're deranged or something. But the reality is you want someone that you can feel comfortable with. So you got to show some personality. So I'd say that's probably number 4. And then I think, again, I would want them to be very comfortable with like you being a kind person and a good person, because I think that's important to employers as well. They want to work with someone that they can feel that they can trust. So I think, if you work on those things, those will help dramatically. And then you back it up when you leave and you're following up with them and you're doing the things that you need to do. And you're gracious even if you don't get the job. So, going back to Ishmael, my friend Ishmael, because I use him for everything, like, take that approach. Take, heads up, like very, very, always professional, always the high end route. No matter how, maybe you feel like you've been mistreated or you didn't get the feedback, or, you didn't get the job and maybe you think you should have. Because in some cases, you weren't going to get that job in the first place. They already had someone in mind. No, it's true. They already have someone in mind. Or they're, they've already made their selection because, friend of Susie's coming in and, they're hiring the friend of Susie. Seriously, it happens all the time. So I'm just saying that those are the kinds of things that happen. So you just be, professional. Yeah. Any other questions? Good. So set your KPIs, and then, basically, when you get to the next page, which I think is pretty much that one, you're going to have a plan completely built out here, and it's going to actually show you the contacts you've developed, the actions, and the milestones you've done. So this little tree will all have those nice little leaves on it. It will actually, and then you're going to have an AI strategy report that gets generated. So it will actually tell you the things you're doing right, some of the things you still need to work on, and then at the bottom of it, you're going to be able to see obviously the completion checklist for all the different steps. It's going to print it out to you in a PDF. You're going to have a self-evaluation score, and you're going to have a peer review, because I'm asking for you guys to do peer reviews on it. And then you're going to be able to see all the progress in the different areas, and you're going to be able to download your work, so that if you didn't complete it, you're able to re-upload it the next time you come here and continue. Okay, so it's going to allow you to just take a break if you want, because it's a lot of work to build it. And then you're going to be able to download the checklist as well. Okay, so it's kind of built so that you don't have to put any personal information in here. You can put all the information to build your plan, use what you want, and then basically, carry on if you want. And then it can be used by other people in the community. So we can make changes to it. So it's not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect. There's things that are missing, or it could be clearer maybe. And there could be more examples. I've tried to, if you've noticed, go back a few steps here, but there's these little light bulbs everywhere. Those little light bulbs give you advice at every one of them. Okay, so I built it in so that there's advice at each of those to provide you with information at every step. Okay, so that's basically the tool. I'm happy to answer any questions you have on both building a business or building a, your career. Any other questions at all from anybody? Yeah.
Not really related to cybersecurity, but maybe you can recommend some communities for data science professionals where they can offer mentorship.
Yeah, where I would probably go. I mean, it's a good place to look. Would be some of the women in cybersecurity. It doesn't have to be cybersecurity, but use STEM. So I would look at the STEM groups. There's quite a few of them. I don't know. I think they're part of the groups that we have in our community list. So if you look at that, I think it's on page 2. I think you can go and access that list. I think it's there. It's either 2 or 3. But yeah, you can pull that tool out. I think we've got about 150 or 160 organizations, and there are some that very much focus on that. I think that would be a good start. But there's probably chapters even here in Ottawa. Does anybody know of any of the data networking? Is it, you didn't say data networking, you said data science. Yeah. I'm sure there are. Does anybody know of any? I'm sure there are, though. If you send me your email, I'll find one for you, because I'm sure I'm connected to them, and I'm connected to a lot of the groups that are working on that, and a lot of the STEM groups are involved in that. So, any other questions? Yeah.
My question is in line with using the site tool.
Using what, sorry?
The site tool. So you can crawl the
Okay.
individuals like email, like phone numbers. There's a tick trace like privacy concerns if you engage that particular individual, and then they sort of question your origin or the email or the phone number.
No, there's no. I mean, the information is public. So all that information that those tools gather are public information. So you might have trouble finding that public information, but it's all public. It's all done through these tools that have access to it or found the information at some point on the internet. So there's no privacy issues. Now, if you misuse the tool in the sense of how you communicate with them, or you reach out for reasons that are, not ethical reasons, then yes, obviously you'd be in trouble. But I think if you're using it for the right reasons, there's no reason. I've never had an issue. And if you don't abuse a tool, then it's not a problem. If you abuse a tool in any way, shape, or form on any social platform, it will become an issue, right? So I think that's something that, one of the key tenets is be ethical in your behavior and approach people with a value proposition versus just approaching them to spam them or look for a job or whatever. Unfortunately, most of us get spammed an awful lot for things that are crazy. I mean, the one that I hate the most is, you know how many awards I won this year? I think I've won about 50 awards. But I have to pay for them all, so I haven't won any of them. Because they all ask for $5,000 or $10,000 for these awards. So I wonder how the people that are winning all these awards are getting these awards. I don't know. There's something wrong there, right? There's something with the industry that basically is giving out awards, but you have to pay for them. So I keep scratching my head, but that's why CCN does not give out awards, because I don't believe in communities building out awards, because you're usually giving out awards to people in your own communities. So it's not usually a great way to do things. I'd rather recognize people just personally versus trying to recognize them for that. But yeah, there's a lot of spamming going on there. There's a lot of people misusing data. So I think that, just use it ethically. So thank you guys. You guys have been a wonderful audience. Feel free to reach out for me. Make sure you get that address. Feel free to become a member of the Canadian Cybersecurity Network. We're going to be doing some things. Thank you so much to Jared and Jay up here. They've been wonderful. Thank you, and be safe.
Thank you.